Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I want to do a little disassembly on this little guy right here. This is the Benchmade 482, or the Megumi. It's a very, very interesting knife, and it actually shows off something that I don't believe I've ever shown off on the channel before, and that is the Nak-Lok. That is designed, so it's Nak after Nakamura, who is the designer of this guy. Nakamura actually did a number of knives for Benchmade. They're very popular. He is a great designer. But anyways, this is an interesting piece because it features a relatively unique lock, and it's a little unusual by Benchmade standards, not only not being an axis lock at all, but also not having a pocket clip, for instance, and being very, very small, right? If we do a size comparison here, this is a tiny knife right here next to your standard Isodelica right here. Yeah, it's a pretty small freaking knife right here. But it's an interesting little knife, and I figured I would do this assembly just because, A, it's not running very well. It is a very stick-slippy action. It's kind of not super comfortable. I'm a little scared that there's Teflon washers in here, which would explain the terrible action. But we'll find out. But anyways, it's not running super well, so I need to get it up there, lubricated and whatnot. And it also uses a lock that's very interesting and different. The Nak-Lok is, it's a sort of, feels like a button lock here. If anything, it feels like the Spyderco Smox lock, where it is a liner lock that sticks. It's kind of a variant of liner lock, but you can see there that the liner sticks out into the path here and effectively hooks over the back of the blade, right? That little liner guy, when you open the knife, slides out into place, and then to close it, you press it closed like that. So anyways, we're going to take this guy apart here, see if we can't lubricate it up, see if we can't get it run a little better, and then we will take it from there. So, yeah. Like I said, this is a very cool knife. It's also very discontinued. So if you're looking for one, good luck, Godspeed. It also feels like the screws are very free spinning, but who knows. So we'll go on ahead and take this out here. I'm going to come from this side because, well, there's only a pivot screw on this side, so we'll see what that looks like. That's coming out nicely, beautiful. Here we go, that goes there. Take this guy out. There we go, that goes there. Take this guy out. That's interesting. This is not a round thing. This is it's got a square to it. I wonder what that's about. And it's not actually like it doesn't seem to be screwed in on that side. That's the stop pin. So I wonder what the squared off nature of it is. Could that be to allow you to adjust? Yeah, because we have a little vertical play right now, but I bet if I turn that, I can adjust that vertical play away. That might be the thing that's going on there. This could be an asymmetrical pin. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, but I won't remove it because, well, I don't appear to be able to. And it looks like maybe this is T8 in the middle here. Yeah. All right. So we've got the pivot out, and the knife is wanting to come apart, so let's go on ahead and let it. And what we see here... Okay, come on, bro. Wait, what's going on here? Why is it not wanting to come apart? It seems to be catching on the line. The Nak-Lok seems to be catching on the other side here. That's interesting, and very frustrating. Am I not going to be able to take this guy all the way apart? Because... yeah, because it looks like the Nak-Lok here, unless, okay, here's a question. Is there a screw? Yes, there is. Oh, wow. Well, this is certainly curious. Is that T5? I think that's T5. Okay, well, let's grab our T5 kit. Or, this is certainly a thing. That's T6. Come here, T5. Where you at? Are you a T5? You are a T5. Okay. Let's grab another driver for it. So if I take this out, that should release the little stud and allow me to take it the rest of the way apart. Maybe it'll release the little stud? There we go. Yeah, well, hold on. Are these crappy washers? Because I tried to just pour a little bit of, let's be real here, I kind of did pour a little bit of ultra white, or ultra light, that is, the KPL in there, and that just didn't appear to work super well. it was still kind of a crappy action. And so I'm wondering, some of it may be that as a factor, some of it may be, I don't know what's going on there. Could just be gunk, right? There's non-trivial gunk up in here. Could be the nature of the Nak-Lok. Who knows? But we're going to give this guy some love anyways. But this is a cool little knife, right? It doesn't have a clip on it, which makes it a little bit tricky to carry. You should keep it put in a slip, etc. That works. These washers look almost a little bit corroded, which is interesting. Like there's some tarnish on the, feels like phosphor bronze there. I think this is phosphor bronze. Yeah, and what feels almost like rust in there. I tell you what I'm going to do here. There's a chance that this is actually plastic, but I sure think I'm seeing some phosphor bronze in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out a strop, right? This is just a good old-fashioned strop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and run these washers across it, right? And this is loaded with some diamond polishing compound. And we're just going to see if we can get a little bit more of the brass bronze that is showing. Yeah, I'll just put it down on one direction there. Because it could just be that what we're feeling in terms of the grittiness of it is just that corroded surface not wanting to spin super well. Yeah, it looks like it's polishing off, so that's good. Yeah, maybe this is going to be what I need. That made it sound much more profound, like this is what I've been looking for all my life. Okay, since I'm doing this motion, I'll do it for both at the same time. But my goal here is just to smooth off those washers a little bit here. This is not something I always recommend doing, but considering the action is already quite bad, there's kind of a little bit of nothing left to lose here, right? Which of course is just another word for freedom. Sorry, that's beside the point. Okay, that's a song reference, by the way, not like a high-minded statement about the nature of free will. Okay, so there you go. Let's go ahead. This one's looking pretty decent. How about this? It's starting to clean up. But yeah, it may just be that what these need is a little bit of polishing. The Nak-Lok itself is kind of interesting. You can see one of the big distinctions of it here. I'll show that off as I'm simultaneously doing this. But you can see, actually, that one of the big distinctions relative to the compression lock is that the Nak-Lok, like the blade hooks into here. And kind of, in order to close the blade, would need to pull this forward, versus the compression lock, which would kind of pinch on this, right? So that's actually a meaningful difference, right? And so it's, I think, although it could be easy to think about as, oh, it's a button compression lock, it really isn't. It is sort of its own little beast, right? And it's interesting that it's just not used very often, right? It probably isn't the strongest thing ever, necessarily, because of that pull and deforming potential, but it's also, look at this freaking knife, right? It's not huge. So that should be fine. By the way, I only feel like I need to do one of these surfaces, right? I don't need to do both sides of the washer, because the other side doesn't need to rotate. It can just sit against the scales. So, all right. Should be about good. Well, let me clean this off a little bit, make sure I'm not looking at gunk on the surface rather than... Okay, that's getting pretty close. We can see it feels kind of like these washers aren't entirely flat. That one's getting pretty close, too. That could be another one of the factors, right? If it's not entirely flat, then it's going to be a lot harder to spin actively and adequately. But let's give this a little bit more love here on the strop. It's always interesting. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm having a moment here where I'm realizing how old this channel is, right? Like, for me, it feels like I've been only doing this for a little while, because in my life, it's only been a little while, but I've been doing this since 2017, right? And so at that level, you know, when this was I think when I started the channel, this was still a knife, right? This was still something regularly for sale. And there were a number of those things. I was thinking earlier about the Benchmade Anthem that was a big deal when it dropped, and now is sort of a historical footnote, right? And so it's kind of interesting with that sort of perspective of time to think about what has stayed, what is gone, etc. And so Yeah, and I feel pretty profoundly old on occasion with it too. But yeah, so it's interesting though. This knife used to be a part of their catalog, and now it's a historical curiosity. And so, yeah, neat. All right, I think I'm almost done here with the polishing. I could probably be a little less extra about this, but I'm going to be real. I'm not sure when the next time I'm going to take this guy apart is going to be. But it's interesting. All right. The fact that I could think phosphor bronze was Teflon is not a good sign for the phosphor bronze in question, right? It is a beautiful knife, though. That is 100% for sure. The Nakamura made some very attractive knives. Also some very functional ones. The Benchmade Nakamura, bearing his name, is one of the better things Benchmade made, right? It's a pretty solid choice right there. Okay. I think that'll probably do. Clean this off a little bit more here. You can see here, leaves a little bit of gumption on the fingers, but, you know, better it's on the fingers than on the washes, right? All right. Beautiful. Okay, so let's go ahead and take the Exxon Shabazz oil off of this. Finish cleaning things up. So it's also interesting that adding the additional oil really didn't help much. Like it didn't really get in there that strongly, but it could just be that it was a little too tight, too. That's a possibility as well. But okay, so we should be ready to put this guy back together now. Before I do that, what do I need to do here? How do I want to work this? So I need to reinstall the Nak-Lok, but I need to do that after the other scale is in place. So this needs to go here. This needs to go through here. And then I need to install the Nak-Lok. So I take this, I do that. I don't actually know that I need the pivot, or frankly that I want the pivot through right now. It may just be a distraction. So I'll put that aside for a second. And then I'm going to grab my T5 driver. T5, oof, that's a choice. I get it, though. It's a little tiny screw at the end of a little tiny bar, but bro, T5. Ooh. All right, and then I put this guy in the little hole there. Come on. And now I just got to screw this in gently. Oh, you little bugger. Come on, get through there. And, okay, maybe. Oh, yeah, got it. All right, so now I got the lock in. Now what I got to do is put the rest of the damn thing together. Okay, so what's the way to do this? Step one, I suppose, is going to be to reinsert the pivot. When I do so, I am going to want to... Oh, this is really annoying. Oh, wildly annoying. Okay. So what I'm going to want to do then is to take some of my knife pivot lube here. I'm going to use the original weight here for this. Put a little bit on the pivot so it's out of the way, and put a little there. I'm also going to take this opportunity to lubricate the Nak-Lok detent ball, which is a thing, by the way. It does have its own detent on there. Now what I'm going to go on ahead and do is put the washer, and so I'm going to want to make sure the side I just spent time polishing is towards the blade. In practice, do I know how much that matters? Not really. I think as long as it's able to rotate smoothly against one side, but I usually will tend to do it toward the blade. Now what I got to do, I guess, is to put the blade onto the pivot here. So I'll take the blade, I'll put it on. Then what I got to do is, once I've got the pivot through the blade, put the other washer in through here. This is sure not the most humane disassembly. Which side did I just polish? Yeah, this guy. Okay. So I'll drop that in there. Whoop. I will throw that someplace else. Beautiful. Okay. Put that there. Beautiful and lovely. Now, the pivot is D-shaped. Is the pivot hole? I don't know. I don't... Well, I can look. It is not. Okay. It's slightly awkward. Maybe it's D-shaped on the other side. Okay. Now the stop pin is in place. I need to push the pivot through. Why is it not? Oh, because I have the lock engaged. Maybe that's the factor. Okay, come on. Get in there, bro. Is the washer's in place? Okay, but it's not wanting... Maybe everything else is slightly out of whack, and so the pivot's not wanting to install. So let me again disengage the lock. Why is this not wanting to go home? Maybe I just am at the wrong angle. Maybe, no, the stop pin's in now. That's nice. But what the heck? That should be... Oh, no, there is a slight D shape, it looks like, to the pivot hole. So I do need to rotate the pivot a little bit, which is awesome because the pivot isn't tooled. Maybe that gives me enough gription. Oh. Okay. So then I need to rotate... Oh, I'll just put it together real quick. Easy freaking peasy. Not so much. All right. Now we put that there. I have occasionally wondered whether it is the case that new knives are now easier to take apart. Like whether disassembly has gotten better. I don't know whether they... Okay, now that's in. Okay, so it was slightly D-shaped. It was just being obscured. All right. So now I want to put in the pivot screw because that will keep everything aligned for me. Come here, pivot screw. But I've occasionally wondered whether new knives... sure, you can come apart for a moment. Are easier to disassemble, whether I've just gotten better at disassembling knives, which is very questionable as a concept, or whether it's just the case that new knives are more homogeneous, and so we're more used to, you know, this is how you put together a frame lock, right? Any of those things could actually be true. My own skill improving, maybe less likely than some. Okay, now we're going to slip this wood under there. Glad I said under. Okay, come here. Don't you hate it when the wood just won't go in? Why are you not wanting to go in there, wood? Let me loosen the pivot a little bit here. Maybe that's the issue. I'll lift this up. Maybe that'll help my wood slide in. No, there are cutouts in the carbon fiber. How dare you? How dare you? Which means I need to fully pull the pivot out and then slide the wood up here. I mean, that makes sense from the perspective of holding the thing together, but it's just annoying. Now, is the pivot still in the right position? Yes. Oh, mercifully, it is. Okay. All this is to say you want to make sure the wood's in the right position before you try to put it in. All right, moving on. So, what we're going to go on ahead and do here is, I'm talking about knife disassembly. I don't know what you all are thinking. We're going to go on ahead and put in these side screws here. Scale screws, that is. Side screw, he says. I've gotten so much better at disassembly. Look at the side screws. So we'll slip this in here. I'm really curious to see if the action's going to have gotten any better through this whole process, or whether I'm just doomed. But yeah, it just feels like maybe things are more homogeneous, because every Bestech frame lock is relatively similar mechanically, and these days nearly every knife is a Bestech frame lock. Let's be real. Okay. That feels very tight. But it could just be that it's, well, very tight. So let me loosen that up a little bit. Okay. There is a little bit of blade play there. Actually, there's some scale play. I think maybe my scales are a little loose. So let me try and tighten these screws up. Just felt like it was flexing weird, you know? Weird flex, but in this case, actually not okay. Okay, let's take this out. There's a lot of blade play there. So let's tighten, tighten, tighten. And where we at? It is certainly smoother than it was. No vertical blade play at the moment. That's nice. Can I loosen this up a little bit more? And then see whether I can get a... This is not the smoothest action ever. Maybe I'm just feeling the carbon fiber having curved up a little bit. I think that's where I'm feeling the play there. This is still feeling a little tight. No play, so I can maybe go a little looser. Very little looser. That's pretty smooth. There is no play of me. Well, okay, there's a little bit of play. Some of that might be me feeling the carbon fiber shifting around a little bit. But that is way better, but the centering is hot garbage. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen the scale screws and see whether, now that I've taken some of the tension out, probably shouldn't loosen that side because I was working on this one. But once I take some of the tension out of the system, will the blade go back towards center with the pivot at the right? Right approach. No, not really. So I'm going to hold the scale, hold the blade a little towards center, and then re-tighten these scale screws here. See if that does it. Well, actually, I'm holding it past center. Okay, that's centered right now. No play. And we are back a little bit off center, but not so far off. Okay. You know what? The action is markedly better here. It's not winning any awards, necessarily. Can I loosen this any further? Or am I going to get play? Yeah, now we got a little play. Yeah, in order for it to be really open, there needs to be a little play. I'm going to be honest with you here. This is not at all unexpected for a Benchmade of this vintage. I think blade play was not something that was particularly concerning at that stage. Hopefully that's changed. But at least to them, sorry, I want to be clear, it was always concerning. But nevertheless, we are in a much better state than when we started. This feels like a real action now, and that's really nice. It could also be that part of what I'm detecting here is just that the washers aren't exactly perfectly flat. I could maybe lap those washers, right? But I don't know that that's going to be the right call. But anyways, there you go. So we now have this guy in much better condition than when we started, which is a lovely thing. And you've now seen the inside of a knife that is actually quite unusual, right? That has a lock that is not really ever... well, it's not used anymore, at least not to the best of my knowledge. If you know of a modern knife with a Nak-Lok, I'd frankly love to hear about it, just because, you know, it's interesting. It's a different approach. And, yeah, hopefully this was interesting to you. And thank you again to the viewer who gave this to me a long time ago. I appreciate you deeply, and I hope very much that you all have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day, and that you too will have the knack for disassembling these in the future. Bye now.